Millions of Kenyans are voting in what has been described as tight contest between the current Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. The international community is monitoring the elections in Kenya with keen interest. The elections in Kenya were previously marred by violence. Campaigning leading to elections has been peaceful, and there's hope that political parties will accept results after voting. Both William Ruto and Raila Odinga went to vote this morning. Counting is expected to start later today after voting stations close.
I have just voted in Kosache primary school.
Steady.
Just a school near to my home. I feel very good that after so many months of campaigning and speaking to the people of Kenya and selling our agenda and our manifesto and having discussions across the country, this morning it's D-Day and we have come to vote. My wife and my neighbors and the people in this community. As you have all seen, everybody here wants a peaceful process. We even have had a spontaneous prayer, and that prayer was all about having a peaceful election. So I'm very happy that this morning the exercise of choosing the next leaders of Kenya for the next 5 years is now underway, not just here, but everywhere in Kenya.
All right, to get an update on these elections in Kenya, we cross to our SABC News East Africa correspondent, Sarah Kimani. Good afternoon, Sarah. What's the latest with regards to voting in Kenya? Have the young people been coming out? There were earlier sessions that, young people seem to be quite despondent when it comes to voting this time around. What kind of leader are they looking for?
Well, what we are seeing in most of the polling stations that we have come in, people have actually come out in their numbers to vote. But the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is saying by midday today, only 6.5 million Kenyans had actually turned out to vote. That is about 30%, because 22.1 million people have registered to vote during this year's elections. In terms of the age groups, it's still very early to tell who is actually out voting. We'll have to wait for the Electoral Commission to tell us exactly who has come out to vote. So far, we now know all the four presidential candidates have cast their ballots, as well as their running mates. So what now we are waiting for, and President Kenyatta has also cast his ballot. We understand that President Kenyatta will be delivering a national address later this afternoon.
Yeah. Sarah, given everything that is happening in continentally, even in Kenya, what do you think Kenyans are looking for in their next leader? What is up most of their demands, or what they're looking for that their next leader should be able to deliver to them?
Some of them are saying change, but majority of them are saying they want somebody who will listen to their cry to bring down the cost of living. In most of the people we have spoken to, whether it is the middle-class Kenyans, whether it is the lower-class Kenyans, so to speak, everybody is crying that the cost of living is high, that inflation is hitting the roof, that many people cannot put food on the table. The cost of food, the cost of basic items is very high, the cost of fuel is high, so they want somebody who will be able to bring down the cost of living, somebody who will be able to provide free education for their children, somebody who will be able to provide free medical care, because one of the things in this country, if a member of your family falls sick, then it means that that family is likely to be bankrupt, because the cost of healthcare is very high. So they will also be looking for somebody who can provide jobs for millions of young people who still do not have work, and yet they have qualified, they have degrees, they have their diplomas, but they do not have jobs. So those are some of the things that they will be looking for. And they are very particular that this time they will not just be voting for the political parties, but they'll also be voting for individuals who can make that change in their lives.
Yeah. Given what you said earlier on, that about 30% of Kenyans have turned out now, there's about 3 hours left before the voting polls close. What's the likelihood that this time will be extended to accommodate most of the Kenyans to cast their votes?
Well, one of the reasons why time may be extended is because there has been a general complaint that the voter identification kits have failed massively. Indeed, in several polling stations now across the country, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is having to turn to the manual voter registers because the digital ones are failing. Somebody will put in their fingerprint and it will not be able to, their name is not coming up. They take the picture, their name still is not coming up. So for example, where we are, the first kits arrived here at about 6 a.m. and they failed in several of the rooms that are set as polling stations. And so the officials here had to call again to get a backup equipment. That's for some, that equipment failed. And so for several hours, close to 4 hours, there was no voting that was taking place here. So they will have now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission will have to increase that time, at least give them an allowance of another 4 hours so that each of them can cast their ballot. But it is across the country. So it is likely that in several areas at 5 p.m., there will be thousands of people on the queue, and the Electoral Commission has no choice but to extend the voting period. But what the failure of these kits also means that there are people who will sit in the queues and they will hear that the kits are failed again, and they will give up and go home. So it is also likely to affect the voter turnout in some areas.
Very interesting. Just lastly, while I have you on the line, Sarah, what is it that you think the international community will be focusing on with regards to these elections? Obviously, most electoral commissions are looking for free and fair elections. What else in Kenya's case would you say that they'd be looking out for?
They will be looking to see that the two main candidates, Raila Odinga and William Ruto, whoever loses accepts the outcome of the elections. Should they not accept the outcome of the election, then that they will go through the legal process. That means going to the Supreme Court and filing a petition, and that petition then will be listened to, and they will accept the outcome of the Supreme Court, because that is the apex court and that is the final decision maker. But because of the centrality and the importance that Kenya holds for the East African region, for Africa, and indeed for the globe, they will be hoping that Kenya will go through the electoral process peacefully, and whatever happens, the country will move on. Now, Kenya is surrounded by landlocked countries. So if, for example, there is chaos, it means that the port of Mombasa becomes inaccessible for people from Uganda, from Burundi, from Rwanda, from the Democratic Republic of Congo, meaning there will be no business between these countries, meaning whatever happens in Kenya is likely to affect what happens across the region. Kenya is probably the only peaceful country in this region with Tanzania and Uganda, but the rest of the countries have chaos going for several years, and Kenya is a guarantor of peace for most of the countries that are neighboring us. So anytime an election is happening, the world watches cautiously to see that everything passes on peacefully, so that then the rest of the region does not break out into chaos, or Kenya does not become like her neighbors where peace has been elusive.
Sarah Kimani is our SABC News East Africa correspondent, and she is taking a look at the elections in Nairobi, Kenya. Do stay tuned to SABC News, because she will be bringing those updates throughout the day to find out how the voting is going in that East African nation.